It's fantasy time.
Yeah, we're talking fantasy sports, not Dear Penthouse. But don't worry, winning your league is way better than porn.
This is Fantasy Hockey Time with Dean Millard.
Can you dig it?
Presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports.
Can you dig it?
Get in the game where you own the game.
Joe own the Chiefs. Owns.
Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Hockey Time, presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. My name is Dean Millard, and we are proudly broadcasting on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network, your one-stop fantasy sports shop. We're going to tell you about that as we go along this program, and the reason we're doing this show is to try to help you win your league, but also make it a lot better, more fun, more entertaining. Most of us are in fantasy for entertainment. Some of us play really high stakes and try to win a lot of money, like in the UFHL, where the prize pool is over $50,000, and we've spread that out over a couple of years, over $31,000 this year alone. So some of us do play some high stakes fantasy sports, and that means that we get impacted by things like the NHL trade deadline. So let's get to things now. Start things off with the question of the day.
This is a serious message. Peace and love. Peace and love.
All right, the question of the day: what is the biggest NHL trade that has impacted your fantasy team here down the stretch as we are very much approaching the trade deadline? This show goes up live at 8 a.m. Mountain Time on Monday. Whenever you're listening to this, the trade deadline easily could have been passed. So for me, it was Sunday night, the Taylor Hall trade. And, you know, big name gets on the move. I don't have Taylor Hall in fantasy, but I do have David Krejci. And it sounds like David Krejci and Taylor Hall are going to play together on the second line. I was chatting with Craig Button, who I do tracking the draft with every Wednesday, and he thinks it's an ideal matchup. Krejci hopefully will be the setup guy. Hall will finish. Some speed on that line with Taylor Hall. So it's interesting. The Bruins didn't even have to give up a first-round pick. There were other teams that actually gave up first-round picks and got players not nearly as skilled as Taylor Hall. But maybe the market dwindled for the Buffalo Sabres. So that's it for me. The biggest trade that has impacted my fantasy team is Taylor Hall going to the Boston Bruins. We'll touch more on that in a little bit, but hit me up on Twitter. Chime in with your answer, and please let me know what you think in regards to our question of the day. Big thanks to our title sponsor, Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. It's the most realistic and easily the highest stakes fantasy platform out there. I told you that our prize platform, or our prize package pool, is a progressive pool, and it's over $50,000. An expansion franchise just sold for $10,000 US, because these aren't just fantasy hockey players. It's not just a fantasy hockey team. They are NFTs. UFFS is on the Zilliqa blockchain. So these are NFTs. They're digital assets. We have the UFHL, which mirrors the NHL, the UFAHL, covering off the American Hockey League. And I haven't seen a whole lot of American Hockey League platforms out there. This platform is next level. You will want to get in on this as quickly as you can, especially if you're a golf fan. They have the Ultimate Fantasy Golf Association. Rosters or franchises will be auctioned off this August, on August 8th, and just announced the Ultimate Fantasy Basketball Association is on the way. Alex is going to do great things. He's the head of basketball, and man, that is going to be exciting. So get in the game where you own the game. Give them a follow on Twitter at UFF Sports, and follow UFS Network as well to keep up to date with some great fantasy programming, and we'll be telling you about that as we roll along here. This is what we have for the lineup. 3.5 stars of the week, the top 3 players, and an honorable mention. 5 lineup decisions will be a deadline edition. 5 players who were traded, and what kind of an impact will they have on your lineup. Unfortunately, once again, a full MASH 4077 unit. Some guys, some really skilled guys, one in particular out for the season. I'll make a bold prediction. I'll vote somebody on and off Fantasy Island. Fantasy Beef, what's bugging you? Hit me up on Twitter at Duck Millard and tell me what your fantasy beef is. And in rules of fantasy engagement, I will give you at least one suggestion per week on how you can improve your league. All right, this is how you get in touch with me.
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here.
I'm the only one in this room. My wife is in the other room. But feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Duck Millard. Or you can email me, fantasyhockeytimepod@gmail.com. You can also email UFSN at UFFsports.com. And you can give them a follow at UFS Network. If you have a fantasy sports show and you would like to join our network, we're looking for outstanding programming. Please hit us up and check out the website fantasyhockeytime.com. All right, I think we are indeed ready to go. Let's drop the puck.
Game on!
All right, we will start things off with our 3.5 stars of the week since last Monday when the fantasy week began. And the honorable mention goes to defenseman Chris Letang of the Pittsburgh Penguins. A goal, 6 helpers in just 3 games. One of those on the power play, if you get bonus for that. And he did reach double digits in 3 games when it comes to shots. 10 shots for Chris Letang. The third star tonight is, or this week rather. We didn't have a game tonight. We're not at the Montreal Forum where the 3 stars are were announced so beautifully. The third star of the week, Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets. 3-0, perfect week. 75 saves on 80 shots, so he really was close to being perfect. In one game, he in fact was perfect as he picked up a shutout. 938 save percentage and a 1.67 goals against average. So safe to say, if you were in a weekly league and you have Hellebuck, you won the league easily. You won your week easily. If you're in a daily league, as long as the caddy, the other guy that you have, didn't throw up all over himself on the ice, you were probably winning the week as well. Rupe Hintz is number 2. The Dallas Stars forward had 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points in 4 games. He was +5 if you have plus-minus in your league. 3 of them on the power play. He had just 6 shots. And it's interesting, he was a game-time decision on Sunday night, and he scored and set up the game-tying goal as well, and just had 6 shots this week. So if you're in a shots league, that's unfortunate, but you'll take the 8 points as well from Hintz. And the number 1 star, Toronto Maple Leaf sniper Austin Matthews, he had the reverse of Hintz. He had 6 goals and 2 assists, and there's a lot of leagues where goals are weighted. I think goals and points should be weighted extra. I don't think than everything else, but I don't think goals should be weighted more than points. Although there is the opportunity to get 2 assists on every goal. But Austin Matthews had his point totals, 8 of them in just 3 games. So very impressive. He had the hat trick as well in that contest. I don't know if there are leagues that have bonuses for hat tricks. I've seen some of them from time to time. +3 for Matthews, 1 goal on the power play, 1 was a game winner, and he racked up 14 shots. So 6 goals on 14 shots from Austin Matthews is pretty impressive stuff when you're looking at the amount of goals that don't get scored in the NHL. So Austin Matthews, bravo, as our first star of the week. All right, let's now get to 5 lineup decisions, and this, as mentioned, is the deadline edition. First of all, the biggest one is Taylor Hall to the Boston Bruins. So this impacts Hall's value because he's obviously going to a contending team. You're going to like that if you're heading into your playoffs in the next couple of weeks. Once he gets kind of used to everything with Boston, this should be pretty good. Interesting, Tyler Seguin was drafted by the Boston Bruins. Taylor Hall went ahead of him to the Edmonton Oilers, and now Hall could have went to the Boston Bruins, and he ends up back with ends up in Boston now after this trade. So the value for Taylor Hall is obviously going up. And this is a guy that we had talked about a few episodes ago now, that, just hold on to this guy. Don't drop him if you were in some shallow fantasy leagues where other guys were outperforming him. Stash him on the roster. Obviously, you're in a dynasty league. You weren't getting rid of him anyway. Or, I'm not sure Taylor Hall would be a keeper depending on what the rest of your roster is, and if you have like 4 keepers or things like that. But now you're being rewarded for holding on to him. So he's going to the Boston Bruins. Sounds like he's going to play on the second line with David Krejci, and that also has value for guys like that have Krejci. Hands up right here. I have a guy on one of my leagues. I do have David Krejci, and I actually took him out of the lineup looking at this week earlier, and then Taylor Hall got traded. Reached out, was talking with Craig Button about where he might play. He's going to slide right there on Krejci, which I thought he would, but who knows? Maybe I thought they would try him on the third line. Maybe Jake DeBrusk moves up or something like that, but it does sound like Hall is going to play with Krejci, and that means I put Krejci back in my lineup. Even though he got skunked last week, no points, and he's really struggling. If there's ever a time in this season that he's probably going to get going, it's right now. So Hall to the Bruins has a bit of a ripple effect in that regard. Devin Dubnyk to the Avalanche. He's likely your backup, and now he is a backup for the Avalanche. Good depth guy if your league goes into the playoffs, into the Stanley Cup playoffs, like we do with the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League. We actually have a redraft, so that franchises like mine, Duckman's domination, when they don't make the playoffs, my players that are going to the playoffs get picked up. So if you're in one of those leagues, like the UFHL, although there's really nothing like the UFHL, this is a guy to have as some protection if your goalie goes down. Now, this is only going to work out if he gets some playing time from the Avalanche, and that's probably not going to happen. But at least it's a depth guy. You're not trading for Devin Dubnyk, but if you have Devin Dubnyk, at least he's going to a team that is going to play better. And if when he does get in there, he's going to have a better team in front of him. So if you're in daily leagues, it's an opportunity to maybe get more wins out of Devin Dubnyk. Henrik Borgstrom is an interesting one. He goes to the Chicago Blackhawks. And this is a guy that you probably want to scoop up if you are in a dynasty league. He's just 23 years old. He was unsigned in Florida, so he still has to sign a deal with the Blackhawks. But there is some potential there. DeBrincat has played really well with Patrick Kane and Pius Suter as well. So there is kind of precedent for young players that have maybe been given up on or have not succeeded in their first stop. They catch a little bit of lightning with Patrick Kane, and maybe if Jonathan Taves, if he returns next year, Borgstrom slides in with him there or something. So Borgstrom's just an interesting guy that if you're in some dynasty leagues and you have roster spots, he might even qualify as a rookie. I haven't looked at his career numbers. But this is an interesting guy that you might want to stash on your lineup and see if next year, if you have room, if you're rebuilding, or if you're a contending team and you want to just, end up with a Pius Suter or DeBrincat that's playing with Kane, Borgstrom could be a guy to stash on your lineup. Kyle Palmieri to the Islanders. Looks like he's going to slot on the third line, but could move up if there's an injury or maybe somebody slumps. The interesting thing with the Islanders is there are 5 players with double-digit goals. And Palmieri, who has already scored with his new team, is now 2 away from joining that group. So the Islanders certainly seem like they would like to spread the scoring around. That's good news for Palmieri, GMs and owners out there in fantasy hockey, because he's going to have a better opportunity. Maybe he's not playing as high up in the lineup as he was with New Jersey. I'm not 100% sure where he was playing there, but still, third line on a team that could make a good playoff run, or at least a really good run to the playoffs if your league ends before the Stanley Cup playoffs, and give you an opportunity, a depth guy if you do run into injuries. And Brandon Montour is number 5 on our list today. He goes to the Florida Panthers. I'm not sure who he's going to be playing with, but he is going to end up getting some minutes that Aaron Ekblad would normally be filling, and that means he will get some power play time. Joel Quenneville has already said he's going to get some power play time. Might take him a little while to get acclimated with the team and get used to the system and whatever role he might be playing, but he will get some power play time. Will the right-handed skilled defenseman will help out. Nobody is certainly replacing a guy like Aaron Ekblad at all. He was having a Norris Trophy type season, but Brandon Montour might be able to give some relief, and it's a bonus for fantasy GMs and owners out there that have held on to him. He was in a terrible situation. Nothing was good, just like Taylor Hall, and now he goes to a team that has a lot more skill and pretty good coach in Joel Quenneville as well. We mentioned Aaron Ekblad. He was in the MASH 4077 unit last week. Let's duck in there now and see how everybody is doing.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off. No, it isn't. Well, what's that then? I've heard worse. You've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look, just a flesh wound. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible!
All right, well, unfortunately, a lot of guys in the National Hockey League are not invincible, and there are once again some big names in the MASH 4077 unit, and Zach Werenski, unfortunately, is out for the season. Some of these guys will be back shortly, some of them maybe a little bit longer, but Zach Werenski is not going to be back until next year. He is out for the season with a hernia, scheduled to have surgery next week, and from what I was told, I was talking to a few different people today, apparently he's played with that sports hernia most of the year, if not all of the year, and finally they just had to shut it down and fix it. So this is a guy, he was so good, him and Seth Jones, going into the playoffs the year before. That series where they beat Tampa 2 years ago, they were unbelievable. So I really look forward to this guy getting back. Tried hard in the UFHL to actually trade for him, and this is we're recording this on Sunday night. There's still an opportunity. Our trade deadline in that league is just like the NHL because we mirror everything about the NHL. So I might still trade for a guy like Zach Werenski because I think he has so much potential. Charlie McAvoy, he is day-to-day with an upper body injury for the Boston Bruins, who have just had all kinds of Tuukka Rask still on IR. Not sure what the heck is going on in Boston, unfortunately. And then a whole bunch of question marks because these players are undisclosed. As we get closer and closer to the playoffs, I think you're going to see a lot more undisclosed. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins of the Edmonton Oilers, undisclosed. Carey Price, day-to-day, undisclosed. Dante Fabro's week to week, at least that they came out and said that about Dante Fabro. See, he is out week to week with who knows. Steven Stamkos left the game the other day. He's undisclosed and day-to-day. And Blake Wheeler, it's a concussion, and he is day-to-day as well. So like that is a really, really talented fantasy lineup right there that is out for the season. You got an all-star goalie, a Vezina caliber goalie. You got some pretty awesome defensemen in Werenski, McAvoy, and Fabro. And then how about those forwards up front there? Nugent Hopkins, Stamkos, and Wheeler. Man, that is a great fantasy lineup right there that is on the shelf in the MASH 4077 unit. So very unfortunate indeed. All right, we're going to get to some bold predictions and vote some people on and off Fantasy Island when we come back from this little interlude.
This is Fantasy Hockey Time with Dean Millard.
You're the best. Fucking ass, fellas. Superstar.
Oh, I love that YouTube chirp of Trache and Kevin Stevens. Trache's really high voice. Kevin Stevens really low voice. Anytime anybody, my wife or I do something good, we always tell each other we're the best fellows. We're superstars. Anyway, Fantasy Hockey Time is part of the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network, your one-stop fantasy sports shop. We are building something all fantasy fans will love, and we're looking for quality programming to join us. Reach out if you're interested in being part of the rotation, whether you have a daily, weekly, or even monthly show. If it's about fantasy, we would love to chat. Follow at UFF Sports and check out UFS Network for more information on how you can own the game.
Hear me now and believe this later.
Prediction? Yes, prediction.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
We want to pump you up.
All right, so I mentioned earlier that the Taylor Hall trade has a ripple effect, and that is what is happening with my bold prediction this week. I'm doing David Krejci, 5 assists, 7-point week with his new line mate, Taylor Hall. And yes, I am looking forward to a victory to solidify a playoff spot and try to win a fantasy title in the Great White North Fantasy Hockey League. So I'm hoping for a little karma, holding on and keeping David Krejci and thinking he might be able to turn it around. I'm hoping that pays off this week with a bold prediction of David Krejci putting up points with his new line mate, Taylor Hall.
Welcome to Fantasy Island.
All right, time to vote.
Wendell is cut. Rudy is cut. Janie, you're gone. Steven, I like your hustle.
Get him a uniform.
Congratulations. The rest of you made the team. Except you, and you.
All right, well, congratulations to Philip Hronik of the Detroit Red Wings because he was voted on to Fantasy Island this week. And because of that injury that I told you, the season-ending injury for Zach Werenski, he is being voted off Fantasy Island, but in a very nice way, and we're making sure he's very comfortable. Unfortunately, I'm in a keeper league. I need an extra defenseman, and I just I can't have an injured guy on my roster, and I already have the IR spots filled up. So I had to let Zach Werenski go. Not sure he would have been one of my keepers next year or not. Probably looking on the back end at a guy like Shea Theodore right now, but we'll see. I could always grab Zach Werenski before the season if I need to, if I decide that I do want him as a keeper or one of my other IR spots are available, which is what I'm planning on doing, is watching the waiver wire. But Hronik is a guy who, if you don't have plus minus, and in this league, this Yahoo league that I'm in, thankfully we don't have plus minus, then he's good, because the plus minus is not good in Detroit, but he does get some shots and he puts up a decent amount of points as well. So not a bad pickup as kind of a depth defenseman as we head into the stretch in that league that I'm in particular. Depending on how deep your league is, he's probably not a guy that you're going to have on your roster, but certainly a guy that can fulfill a role for me in a pinch if I need it. It's a daily league, so at least he gets in there and picks up a few categories for me in that regard. All right, we're going to have our fantasy beef and rules of fantasy engagement right after this.
Back to the pond, rookie.
This is Fantasy Hockey Time with Dean Millard.
Dean Youngblood, 5'10", 160 pounds. He's 17 years old. An American kid from Stanton. Scored 92 goals this year so far for the Stanton Flyers.
All right, well, this show would not be possible without the support from Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. They thankfully have supported me all along, and I am so thankful to be a part of their system. The Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League mimics everything about the NHL. My team is in the basement, but we have a lot of prospects because we have a 26-man roster, then a 27-player reserve list. There's a scouting program. My wife owns High Level Scouting. Craig Button is the president of our scouting, so we feel we have a bit of a leg up. There's actual playoff series head-to-head. The regular season, you just accumulate your points, you get in your standings, we have divisions. And then in the playoffs, you draft from the franchises that don't make it, and you fill out your roster and get rid of the players that obviously didn't make the NHL playoffs. Because these aren't just fantasy players either. They're NFTs, digital assets. They are on the Zilliqa blockchain, and it is unbelievable. The future of fantasy is UFFS, and it's here. You can own the game and get in the game. Follow UFF Sports on Twitter, and you can check out UFS Network, the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network, for more information. That is what you are watching right now.
Am I hot? Yeah, I'm hot.
It's some bull crap.
I'm your huckleberry.
Well, we're waiting.
That's a crock of crap.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
All right, so when it comes to my fantasy beef, it's more fantasy beef with the fantasy world, karma, whatever you want to call it in general. I just got slaughtered this week in one of my leagues. I don't know. I couldn't get it going. Guys slumped. David Krejci, as I mentioned, in one of those guys. And it just seemed like every time I turned around, my opponent was scoring goals. So I thought, well, I got to have a lot of things go right on Sunday. And one of them is a shutout. I need to get a shutout, or not Sunday, on the weekend. And one of them I needed a shutout last night, my last goaltending performance. That was on Saturday, rather. And Jekka Markstrom got the shutout for me for the Calgary Flames. So my fantasy beef is that I got slaughtered, didn't come close, and I get that shutout in the final weekend when I have no chance at winning. Like I had one category, and that was the shutout. And, today I got a couple of more, garbage time categories to use a term that we use in fantasy when guys pick up points and blowouts. I got, a few measly categories, but, it's like, oh my God, what if I don't get that shutout again? And I don't believe in, jinxes or anything like that. I believe in karma, and I would never tell a person they have a shutout or a no-hitter. But me saying it out loud, I don't believe in it. I actually did it on Saturday night, and it happened, so I don't really believe in that at all. But it's just like, oh my goodness, why can't that shutout happen next week when I'm actually in contention and trying to make a run at a title in that league? So, that's fantasy though, right? You have to take the points when you can. You don't really get to pick and choose what sort of fantasy points, when and where you get them, or else everybody would doing it, and it would be very easy.
Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules.
I don't think it taints it.
What'd you talk about, mister?
All you have to do is follow 3 simple rules.
All right, I just have one rule for you today on rules of fantasy engagement, and that is to implement in if you're in a keeper league, in a dynasty league, and a minor league system. So 2 of the leagues that I'm in that are just regular fantasy leagues on CBS, we have a minor league system. We have, I think, 4 players in hockey that you can have signed to a minor league contract. In baseball, actually in football too, we do. In baseball, we have 6 minor league spots. In football, in the one league that we're in, it's quite cool. We have a rookie draft, and you can start those players as rookies, and you get 2 years, and they don't count against our cap. So that's kind of a neat thing. I'll expand on that maybe another time and try to work it into a hockey situation. But every league, I mean, pretty much has the CBS, and then the UFHL. Like I said, we have a 27-player protected list, and ours is full. Well, it's not. We got a couple of spots, but we try to get as many players as we can, and then we can use them as trade chips. But I think it's really cool to be able to, you can focus on the draft a little bit more. You can stockpile for futures. So this only really pertains to people in the dynasty, and I guess you could do it in a keeper league, and everybody gets a certain amount of rookies and things like that. Depending on how deep your league is, though, I think a minor league system is something that is pretty cool, and it allows you to watch and follow along with the players that you have in their respective junior leagues as well. So that's just something I think that adds to the league, and for serious fantasy players, you really want to know who the best players are. You want to stash those guys in your rookie. I know I watch a Dodger game, and every time I'm wanting to put somebody in on my baseball minor league system. So I highly encourage, as the rule advice or rule suggestion this week, is to have a minor league system in your fantasy hockey league. Okay, that means it's time to wrap things up here on the program. If you would like to get in touch with me, it's fantasyhockeytimepod@gmail.com. If you have a question, a comment, if you'd like to join the program as an advertiser, it's fantasyhockeytimepod@gmail.com. Fantasy Hockey Time is part of the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. UFSN is your one-stop fantasy sports shop. Follow along on Twitter at UFS Network, and find us on YouTube at UFSN. If you have a fantasy sports show, please hit us up. If you'd like to join the fun, we would love to have you on board and have some fun with us. By the way, we're going to be here live Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, for the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League Trade Deadline Special. Live show, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I'll be a part of it a little bit, but Darren Bates and Larry Fisher will be the main hosts of that one. All right, that is going to wrap things up. Obviously, big thanks to Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports for always being a big part of this program. And by the way, you can find the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network on YouTube. There it is right there. You can find all kinds of shows on the program, and here is our schedule. Every second Sunday, we have the UFFS podcast. This show comes out Monday mornings, 8 a.m. Mountain Time. 2-Minute Tuesdays will come your way Tuesday morning. Tracking the Draft with Craig Button on Wednesday afternoon. And UFHL Now on Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to check out some other podcasts, find me at podcastalley.ca. All right, that is going to wrap things up. Have yourself a great week. The deadline is just about here, and depending on when you're watching this, could be over. Enjoy your week in fantasy. I'm Dean Millard, helping you win your league, and at the very least, make it better. Have a great week in fantasy, everybody.